I wanted to show my mom's sweater off. It is really cute, and my mother was really excited for me to wear one of her sweaters to my podcast, and I thought this would be really nice for the wedding dress. I think the smaller ones, the 4 on the side here, will be on the main wedding dress, and then maybe some of the bigger ones on the mohair skirt. So that day I did get a bit done on this, but because the day just was so long, and also when you get up in the middle of the night it is quite cold. So hi, welcome back to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Trine and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, my current project, finished project. Sometimes I talk a bit about projects I've planned or yarn, just everything that falls into my head while I sit here and chat with you all. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. If you've been here before, you might notice that this is not my usual background, and that's because I am currently visiting my grandma, or the whole family is currently visiting my grandma. Almost the whole family on my father's side is here right now, but I still wanted to pop in and do a little podcast. I love doing this podcast, so I have tried to tuck myself away to be able to do this podcast. It might be a bit of a shorter one, but I wanted to update a bit on what I've been knitting on. But before we get into that, I wanted to show what I'm wearing, and today I'm actually wearing one of my mother's knits, because the one sweater that I brought is a bit too hot to wear here. We are in the south of Norway and it's actually summer temperatures here, so my mother gave me this sweater to borrow to do this podcast, and she's given me a few of the details so I can share them with you. I have them here on a little note. This is the Fair Tea by Trine Knitwear, and it is supposed to be a tea like the name suggests, but my mom is a quite cold person, and she also lives where I do, and it's quite cold all the time, so she wanted to make it a full sweater, which I think really suits this design. It has these puff sleeves. They might be a bit harder to see because of the long sleeve, because they kind of weighs it down, but there are puff shoulders, and then since she elongated the sleeve, it does also have these kind of balloon sleeves, which I think really suit this design. It is really cute. My mom knit this in one strand of brushed alpaca silk in some kind of off-white color, and she told me the whole sweater only weighs 140 grams, so this is super lightweight and it's also quite soft and comfortable. I have noticed with brushed alpaca silk that it is a bit hit or miss how soft it is, but I think the lighter the color, the softer the yarn, and the darker, more saturated with color yarns are a bit like stiffer, more felted almost, but this is really nice and soft and fluffy, and it's really cute. I also really like the neck this has. It's quite big neck opening, which I think is really nice for summer clothing, that it's not like strangling you at the neck. I'll try to give you guys a bit of a better look at it. Here you can see, I think it's a saddle shoulder with a bit of a puff sleeve, but that's a bit harder to show. And then it is just regular sweater length. I think it's a bit longer than I would make them for myself, but my mother also is a bit longer. But yeah, that is the sweater. I still don't know if I'll be able to wear this the whole podcast, because I am sitting in something that is quite close to a greenhouse. It's just all windows, so we'll see if I get too hot or if I'll keep it. But I wanted to show my mom's sweater off. It is really cute, and my mother was really excited for me to wear one of her sweaters to my podcast. So here it is. Here you can see some of the stitches and the fluff. I think brushed alpaca silk is a really good yarn to use. I really enjoy this yarn instead of knitting with 2 strands of drops kid silk. I really enjoy doing brushed alpaca silk because I think it is a lot softer and not as itchy. I made a cumulus blouse in this yarn, for example. Wearing 2 strands of kid silk, I can't really do all over my body because it kind of itches for me, but with brushed alpaca silk it is so soft, and especially this light white color is maybe the softest brushed alpaca silk I felt as well. So I really have to recommend this, and I don't think this design is something I'd go for myself, especially seeing the project pictures on Ravelry with only the puff sleeves, but now that my mom has made it and I see how cute it is, especially with long sleeves, I do really like it, even though I don't think it's something I would necessarily make myself. But that is it for what I'm wearing today, and then we can get into my whips. And first I thought I'd talk a little bit about the wedding dress, and I decided to not bring the wedding dress here. I did think about it a lot, but we drove a really small car here and the car was packed with our things and a lot of people, so it just didn't make sense to bring it, and the wedding dress is starting to get really big now, so I left that at home. So this week I haven't really knit on it, but what I have done is that I've got these. They might be really noisy to move around, but I've got these. Let me just tip them. I've got these pearl beads in a lot of different sizes. I'm trying to hold it in a way where the sun won't reflect on it, but there are some really bigger ones, and then there's some super tiny ones and some bigger ones, and I thought these would be really nice for the wedding dress. I think the smaller ones, the 4 on the side here, will be on the main wedding dress, and then maybe some of the bigger ones on the mohair skirt. I think maybe these, I don't know if I will use the biggest ones, but maybe like one of these could be around kind of where the belt on the mohair skirt is, to create more of a pearl belt. I don't know, I haven't tried any of these out, but now I'm really excited to get back home and to make some sort of swatch to try some ideas out, both for the main wedding dress and for the mohair skirt. But now I've gotten pearls, and I got 2 just in case. I think that should be enough, because especially the small pearls, there are a lot in each box because they are small. And I got them in the white color. You could get either like a pretty like yellow off-white color, or you can get it, or you could get it in pure white, and I decided to do that since my wedding dress already has some off-white in it. The alpaca feuilletron is off-white, and that is leaning quite yellow already. I didn't want something else that was quite yellow because I think my wedding dress will look quite yellow then, but I got those in white, and the more stuff I get ready that isn't just the knitting, the more excited I am to do the knitting and to get further on that, so I can get these pearls in and do more of that, because I think it's going to end up looking so cute, and the more I do, the more an idea of how it's actually going to look is forming in my head, and I think it's going to be really, really nice. And what I already have of the wedding dress I am really pleased with, and these pearls are exactly what I wanted. I'll see if you can get a better look. So here they are. I think this is going to be the perfect thing, and then I think I still might do some embroidery, but I have to see what looks good together, how many pearls, where I want the pearls to be with the embroidery. So that's what I need the swatch for. But I feel like even though I didn't bring my wedding dress, I haven't knit anything on it this week, I still feel I got a good amount of progress, just because I finally got to check getting pearl beads off the to-do list, and it was really nice to do it here because I can go in a store and actually look at them in person instead of ordering them online, because I always think ordering online is a bit scary because you can't really see it in person and really see the color it is. But that is what I did for the wedding dress, and I didn't really do any more. And then another whip that I have that I brought with me. All of the other things almost this week I have brought with me, but the next oldest whip is the Olga. I brought the Olga. I thought I'd work a little bit more on it, but warm weather, a sweater that is starting to get quite big, has turned into me not really working a lot on this. My son has been getting up ridiculously early though these days, and one day he even got up at like 3 a.m. So that day I did get a bit done on this book because the day just was so long, and also when you get up in the middle of the night it is quite cold. So I have finished the body. I definitely don't think it is the length that the pattern recommends, but I usually like my sweaters a bit shorter. But I did knit it a little bit longer than I would have. I asked in the knit along group what I should do, if I should stop where I was at or if I should do a couple more stripes, and the vast majority said to do a little bit more, so I did that. I think I did 2 stripes more, and then I did the ribbing, and the ribbing on this is super skinny. I think it's just 8 rows, and you do the stripe throughout the ribbing, which I really like. It gives the whole sweater a really nice look to. You don't really see the ribbing super well since the stripes carry, and since I did the same on the neckline as well, I think the stripes just look so good together. I'm really excited about this now, and I've been telling myself for the last couple of days that okay, today I am going to pick up the stitches for the shoulder, because that's usually quite a sticky point for me. If I don't do it right away, it kind of tends to drag because I don't love picking up stitches, and this is why I should always do it while I'm still knitting on the body, but I didn't because we have been going around a lot. It's summer and I do bring my knitting everywhere I go, so it's been just nice to not work at it at multiple places at the same time. But that means that now that I've finished the body and not picked up the stitches for the sleeve, it is a lot harder to do so. It is a lot easier to put it off, and that's what I've been doing. And also it has been hot. We are with family. We have been around town, so it's not like I just sit and knit through the day, but hopefully I will get to pick up stitches. I really want to pick up stitches before we leave here. We are leaving tomorrow. Today's Friday. We're leaving Saturday. Hopefully quite early, so we get going before the day gets from us. But I want to have picked up stitches before we leave, because then I could possibly work on this in the car. If I had already gotten a bit into the sleeve and know what I'm doing, it's easier to work on in the car. And I haven't had any use of it here, but I know that we're going back home and autumn is coming, fall's coming, and it's going to be quite cold soon, and it already hasn't been like super summer weather back home, so I know that I'll get loads of use of this when we get home. And I do love these stripes, and after I finished the body and got to properly try it on, I have tried it on with some try-on tubing and everything, but the fit never is quite the same for me with try-on tubing and when the body is finished. I was really worried after the first time I tried it on with try-on tubing, because it wasn't as oversized as this was supposed to be, and it didn't fit quite right. But now that the body is finished, I tried it on again and it fits much better, and the seams where the sleeve's supposed to go roll up a lot, so it isn't as drop shoulder as it's supposed to be. But I know when I get the shoulders in and the edge stops rolling in, and also the added weight of the sleeves, this is going to be amazing. It's going to have a nice amount of drop shoulder. Also probably will relax a bit when I wash it, and this will be great to have when we get back home. So I want to get going on this, so I'll have it quite soon. But yeah, I just want to get to that as fast as possible. I still have not done a swatch to wash to kind of see where I should go with the washing of this, but I've also realized now that I am playing a bit of yarn chicken. I think I'll be okay with the sleeves, but I don't have that much yarn left, especially for the red one. I do have a whole extra skein of white, but I am quite scared I won't have enough of the red, so I don't want to take any red away yet to do a swatch with. So I think I'll wait until I either get to a point where I know for sure I'll have enough yarn, or I finish the whole thing and then make a small swatch, either by knitting, or I've been suggested to just braid a couple strands of yarn together to see if that colors off. I think I might end up doing the braid version, but I want to get to a point where I know I'll have enough yarn before I start taking some of the yarn away to do other things. But I'm pretty sure I'll do a sort of vinegar bath or something for the sweater just in case, because even if I do a swatch, that will be a lot less red. This has a lot of red in it, so I think I might do vinegar just to be safe, because this is a big project to just gamble on. But that is it for the Olga, and hopefully by the next podcast I'll have this done, because we are getting quite far into August, and I think technically August might be a summer month, but for me August is really all about preparing for fall and winter, so that's kind of the mindset I'm getting into. But that's it for the Olga. And my last whip is what has turned out to be my most active whip while on vacation, and that is a new project I've cast on this week that I packed with me specifically because I thought that might be the case, that I wanted to knit on smaller things while here, and it's not that small anymore. But this is the mini Augustins #1 by Augustins.dk, and it is my all-time favorite blanket. I don't know if you've seen me before and seen me knit on this. I made 2 for my twin cousins, and I've also made one other, so this is my 4th time making it, and it is super cute with a lot of different structure. Unfortunately, it is a bit hard to show off now that it's on the needles and before it's been blocked, but this is definitely my all-time favorite blanket. I think I'll forever be a little bit sad that I didn't discover this blanket before we were done using blankets for my son, because it is the prettiest blanket. It is also the most fun blanket in my opinion to knit, because there is always something happening and you knit in the round. Before this I had only made blankets knit like back and forth to a certain length, and I don't love that because I'm always measuring, trying to like, am I done yet, am I done yet, am I done yet, and it progresses so slowly. But here you start out with few stitches and it goes by so quickly in the start because you barely have any stitches, and as you go on of course it progresses a bit slower. But another thing that's great about this is that not only does it progress really quickly, especially in the start, you don't really have to measure it because you do it based on like a certain number of rows or a diagram here and there, so you don't have to measure it all. Also great for me because I get less impatient. And another thing is that there's always something new happening. You have different structures all over, some twisted ribbing, some other lace work, a diagram here, a diagram there. So before you really get tired of something, you're already moved on to the next thing, doing the next thing, which is great. The one thing though is that I'm right at the end now. I'm almost done with like the main blanket, the thing you knit in the round, and then you move on to the border. And right before that I am on the next to last step, and that is twisted rib. And twisted rib is the one thing I get a bit tired of because you do the same thing the whole round, and twisted rib also takes so long, so I have a lot of time to grow kind of tired of it. And I already know from before that twisted rib is not exactly my favorite. So I don't love that. And then comes the border, which I enjoy doing because it completes the blanket, and it's also what you use to kind of cast off your stitches, which is fun, but it's also the most repetitive part of the pattern, so that's also a place where it's easy to grow a bit tired of it. And I think not only is it the one thing that's most repetitive, I think it's also the thing that takes the longest. So the border takes more time than the whole blanket, but I have done it before, and I know that the more I do it, actually, the more I enjoy doing the border, but it's definitely going to take me a while. I don't know if this is going to be a great project to do in the car on the way home, because I'm probably going to be on the border then. So either this or the Olga will be my car knit, but this has definitely been great to take with me. This has been to the beach, this has been to an amusement park, this has been everywhere. It's been to shopping malls, it's been everywhere. And even though it is quite heavily structured, it's been quite nice, because even though it is very structured and lace work, it's a really easy lace work. You don't really need to be looking at the pattern all the time, because it is a lot of just repeats, so that's been nice. So I've been able to take this with me places, and of course it's grown quite big now, but before then it was easy to pack with me, and it's still probably my smallest project, so that's been really nice to just have something small to work on. And I think, as I said, this is my 4th time making it, but I think this is the time I'm actually making it in a yarn that's the closest resembling to the yarn you're supposed to do. I think you're supposed to do 2 strands of some sort of thin merino wool, according to the pattern, and I'm doing it. I'm actually going to try to see if I have, I don't, but this is some, I think it's wool and not merino wool, but it's wool, not superwash, which has been great for split splicing instead of weaving in ends, and it's about DK weight, and this is the closest resembling I've knit with yet to what you're supposed to do. And I also think the color and everything just complements the stitch so well. I think this is the time I've made it that the stitch has been the most defined and like full looking, so it's just been really fun to knit this time, and it's going to be sad when it's done. And I think I'm going to go home and go through my stash and try to find more yarn that can turn into this blanket, because it really is one of my favorites to knit, and it is just the right amount of a mix between like very like mindless and also incredibly like you need to always pay attention, but also you don't have to, you can also quite easily look at your knitting and know what you're supposed to do. So I really enjoy that combo, so I want to do more of this, but this has been my main project this week and I am really loving it, and this is probably what I'm going to be spending my day doing today too, even though I really should pick up stitches for the Olga, and this is also what's been taking all my attention at night when I should be working at the Olga. I've also been going to bed really early this week because my son has been getting up so early, and when I've been getting up with him I've been too tired to knit, so I've definitely lost out on some of my regular knitting time, because usually I stay up quite late and then it is my fiancé that gets up with our son, so I usually get a bit more knitting done, but not while I'm here. But it's been nice to work a bit slower on projects and just have some quiet mornings with my son, even though he can definitely start sleeping a bit more. But that is it for my active project, and I am quite happy with how much I've gotten done. I did pack a bit more, but I definitely didn't overpack as much as usual this trip because I was trying to pack light. I think I brought yarn I brought some knitting for olive merino in white to knit the twist loop top for myself, and then I also brought merino extra fine in some dark grey to make the Williams pants for my son. I don't know, I might start one of those projects for our car project tomorrow, but I'm definitely happy with the amount of projects I packed, because even though I did not get to everything, I had a nice amount of projects to pick between, so I wasn't forced to knit on only one project, which usually kills all of my knitting motivation, so I'm really happy with that. But that is it for my active projects, and then I also have some finished projects this week. Last week I had very little left of the Marseille to do, and it is finished now, but I did not bring it with me because it was finished and we were going somewhere a lot warmer, and I was already bringing one of the projects I've made my son in the cotton merino, so I didn't want to just overpack, which I'm happy with. We wouldn't have needed it, so that's not here, but I did manage to grab a picture of the Marseille right before we left home, so I'll put that in here. I did finish the Marseille pretty immediately after the last podcast, and then I was supposed to weave in the ends, and I definitely procrastinated doing that, but I didn't want to come home to having to weave in ends, and I'm trying. If you know, I'm struggling with weaving in ends, but I'm trying now to weave in some ends on all projects on the podcast, and then every project I finish throughout the week, my goal is to weave in ends on those as I go. So I didn't want to get home to have to do the Marseille, so the last evening at home I sat down and started weaving in ends, and I'm glad I did. But boy, does the Marseille have many ends. I don't think I've knit any item or any garment with more ends to weave in. Of course, my Marseille that I've knit before had more ends to weave in, but both of the Marseilles had so many ends to weave in, and I sat there. I started quite early, and I sat there until way into the night just weaving in ends, but I did finish, and I did get to grab a photo, so I'm really happy with that. And when we get back home now, the Marseille is ready to go. It still hasn't been washed, but it's not knit in a yarn and knit in a pattern where you have to wash it before you start using it. So depending on the weather, if it's warm, it's probably going to get washed first. If it's not, we'll probably just start using it. But I'm so happy with the Marseille, both because we'll finally get to match now after 2.5 years, and also because it looks so cute. It feels so soft, and just my overall impression is that it's going to be such a comfy piece. It's knit in a yarn I really like to use for kids and babies because it is soft, it is super wash, so it's easy to clean, and I just really enjoy the yarn. It's knit in merino extra fine by Drops, and also the design and the fit, it's like some sort of sweatshirt, which I think is going to be very comfortable. It's just the right amount of drop shoulder, the right amount of oversized without it being like too much, because I think for adults you can have a lot of oversized and it still be comfortable, but for kids who move around so much and who want to be able to have full range of motion, I think oversized is great, but if it gets too much they can kind of get tangled up in their own clothes. But I think the Marseille is the perfect like in between. So honestly now I'm just excited to get back home, start using it, and as I said, I am definitely in the mindset of just preparing for fall. I still have summer knits I haven't gotten to, like the twist loop top that I brought here, and I want to get to them, and I think it would be a good idea to get to them, because if I start in the summer, next year I won't be done before summer is over. but I'm definitely very into sweaters, and all I want to think about is sweaters and sweater weather and everything like the Olga, and I have multiple sweaters at home that I want to get to, both for me and my son. So I think it's going to be hard for a summer knit to squeeze its way in here. Maybe if we get some good temperatures at home as well, but I don't really think so. But that is it for the Marseille and the picture of the Marseille. I am really happy with how this turned out. And then I have one other finished project that I actually started on this week, and that was my car project on the way here, and that is the Hipster Hat, also by Petiteknit. I don't know if you can see it, it is quite dark, but this is my car project. I just wanted something easy, something small, something I didn't have to, the start of this you just knit and around doing nothing, so it was a great car project. This is a hat for my son, but his head is quite big, and we already have a few hipster hats in the toddler size in the pattern, so this is knit in the female size, I don't know, adult female size. So it will fit him for longer, and also so that me and my son can share it, because I don't have that many hats even though I'm a knitter. So and my knitting journey started out making hats, but I haven't ended up with that many, so I thought it would be nice for us to have a hat we can share. And with a 3-year-old there aren't really a lot of knitting projects that I can make for us to share. I do make the softest scarves for us to share, and now I've made the hat, so I'm really pleased with everything I can make that we can share, because then I won't have to make that many different versions. This I knit in Sandnesgarn Smart that I have had some of in my stash. I had 2 skeins, and I think this used 90 grams, so that I am quite pleased with, and it is quite stiff and now, but I think that will get a lot better once it's washed. But it's definitely a bit of a stiff fabric right now, because it is knit on 3.5mm needles, which I luckily remembered this time. So it is a bit stiff just because the gauge is really tight, but I think that will be more comfortable after a wash. I did finish this quite quickly because it was just mindless, and as I said, I have been into smaller projects, so I did have this as my main project also until I finished it. And I have to say, I do love double ribbing. There is just nothing like it. It is so fun to do, it's so satisfying to do, and it is, as I said with the Augustine blanket, it is the right amount of, it's really mindless, but you also have to be a bit focused, because if I'm not, I forget to do knit stitches over knit stitches and purls over purls, and I fall into like a 1x1 ribbing, or it just gets shifted by one stitch. So I have to keep my eye on it and be a bit focused on it, but it's also super mindless, and I love projects like that. As you can see, I have not weaved in the ends, but I also haven't brought any of my old projects to do the weaving in ends segment, so I thought I'd weave in the ends on this one, and probably also get started on the Olga, because I also think there's going to be a lot of ends to weave in on the Olga. This is super wash, and it's the same yarn as my Olga. Both of these are knit in Smart, so I haven't been able to do split splicing on this or the Olga, so that means more ends. But I think this is going to be really comfortable, and I'm making my son a Olga Sweater, which is quite close to the Olga Sweater, but the toddler version, and I think this is going to match some of the colors, and his Olga Sweater is also going to be knit in Smart. So I had a bit of that in mind also when choosing the yarn for this and choosing what to make, but I am really happy with this. I have got my son to try it on, and it definitely wasn't big on him, which was a bit surprising since this is the size I'd also choose for myself, but I'm glad we can share it, and I think it will also probably hopefully grow a little bit when we wash it and the stitches relax a little bit. But that is really it for everything I've been knitting this week, and now I'll go find my needle so we can weave in a couple of ends. Got my needle and some random pair of scissors. I forgot mine at home, but I did get scissors, so now I'm ready to weave in ends and chat with you. I did talk a little bit last week about feeling like I was in a bit of a knitting slump, and not just knitting but just all creativity in general, just really struggling with being creative, both in terms of knitting but also YouTube and everything creative, finding it a bit hard to figure out what to do. And I'm still definitely in that. I think that is why it's been extra hard to pick up stitches for the sleeves of the Olga. It's just everything that is a bit extra is a bit, I need a bit more extra motivation to be able to do it as well. But this trip has definitely been really nice to get a bit out of it, because I have been working on a bit different projects than usual, because I work on bigger projects, but now I've had to bring a lot of smaller ones because it's easier to work on with family. I've also had a lot less knitting time, which means my expectations for my knitting weren't as high, and just all around it's been a bit of a change of pace with a lot of different things. So that's definitely been really nice when it comes to the knitting slump and me not feeling creative, especially this hipster hat and the mini Augustins, maybe especially the mini Augustins, because that is so many different things and structure has been loads of help. Finishing the body on the Olga was also helpful, but now I have to pick up the stitches and I am really not looking forward to that. But it's been a really great week in terms of everything knitting related and creativity related. I've also been to a couple of thrift stores and I've got some frames, some different frames that I thrifted because I saw a cool idea with lots of different thrifted frames on Pinterest. So not just knitting but everything creativity related has had a bit of a boost here, and I think it's been nice that I've not solely been focused on knitting as well, and I have just been focused on different things and more different things than just knitting, which has been nice, while I've also gotten to knit a bit. Of course, I do really enjoy knitting, and it's definitely been nice to not feel any sort of deadline, not have any sort of timeline as to when I expect or want to get anything done, because kind of all of my knitting time I've got here has felt like a bonus because I didn't know how much time I'd be able to get here. So that's been nice, a bit of change of pace and change of expectations and change of how I look at it. Now I only have 2 more ends to weave in here. Now I only have to try to kind of keep this way of thinking when I get back home. It's really, really easy for me to slip into thinking I have to do everything as quickly as possible, or just putting deadlines on everything knitting related, and it's been easier to avoid that while here, but I have to keep it going when we get back home, especially since fall is coming and there's so many things I want to knit, so I kind of feel like I have to finish everything quickly so I'll get to everything. And also for my son, his wardrobe isn't really complete, so I have some pieces for him that I really need to get to, but I'm going to try to do it without stressing and I have gotten started. I've made quite a few pieces the last couple of weeks and this month, and just this week I did knit him a hat, which is going to be helpful. So I'm going to try to just chip away at it bit after bit and be happy with that, but it's definitely a work in progress. I also really want to get back into journaling by hand. I use Knit and Note a lot, but there is something about doing it by hand that is just a lot more slow paced, and on Knit and Note I just do it a little bit here and there, and it is really fast paced. But if I want to do it in my journal, I slow down with it a lot. So that's the first one, and we'll just do a couple of ends on this one. Probably around the neck here is a good place to start. So that's definitely a work in progress, but it's nice being here and kind of being able to see what works for me and what has worked for me this week in terms of like not stressing. So hopefully I can carry that with me back home as well. But I am also really excited to get back home. I think traveling and going other places is okay, but I am definitely a homebody. I think traveling is okay and I do a bit of it, but nothing is quite as good as being at home. I just really enjoy being in my own home, and especially like with a toddler, with your own things and your own kitchen and your own routines. There is just something about it that I prefer, but it's definitely good to also go a bit out of the comfort zone and go traveling a bit, but it's not something I do very often, and I'm not going to start doing it super often either, because just a week here and there a year is more than enough for me personally. But it's been nice while we're here, but I'm definitely, after a week here, I'm definitely ready to go back home now. It's been long enough. We've done a lot of different things, and I feel like we're quite done being here now, and I want to get home to, of course, my fiance, but also all our things and our routine. I really enjoy everyday life. I think going outside of everyday life every now and then is okay, but it is everyday life that I enjoy the most, which I am really happy that that's what I enjoy the most, because there are more everyday life than there are special occasions. So most of the time I am doing the things I want to do the most. I don't know how many ends I'll weave in on this. Just I think getting a bit of a head start on the Olga would be nice, because of both the construction and the stripes and the yarn being superwash, there are just a lot of ends to get to. So and I know it's going to take me hours to weave in ends on something, I just never get to it. So if I do a little bit here and there, it will be easier when it's done to finish it completely. Now I've done 3 ends. I think I can try to do all of the ones around the neck maybe. But yeah, hopefully I'll be back to feeling more creative. I also want to make more videos for YouTube, not only these podcast ones, but sometimes it's hard to figure out what videos to make. Of course, I love to make those videos where I do a whole project, kind of vlog the whole duration of the project and how the project worked up. I really enjoyed doing those videos. Those are probably my favorite ones, but they do take a lot of time to make, so I also want to make some other videos in between. If you have any videos you would like to see, or any ideas at all, I'd love to hear them. I'm very open to suggestions when it comes to what kind of videos you guys want to see. I think it's quite fun to make videos and to kind of the process behind it and the knitting, but sometimes it is really hard to come up with good ideas. So if you want to help me with any suggestions, I'd love that. I think this is going to be the last end I weave in. Let's see. Hopefully you can't see that from the front. No, you can't. But yeah, that is it for this week, I think, with weaving in ends and all of my projects. Now I really want to get back to this. I can't wait to get back on this. I've just been looking at this throughout filming and wanting to get to it, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go outside where everyone else sits and knit a bit on this. But I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. That means the world to me. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!